induction ceremony for 2019. You all know who I am, of course. Mark Fono. I get to be the faculty advisor for this nationwide organization that has a local chapter. And if I seem a little bit nervous, it's because I am. This is kind of a big deal to me. It's a huge honor for these kids, and so I do take it more seriously than I take most things. It's up to you. Did a little research to remind myself when the National Honor Society began in our country, and it goes 98 years back. It was started by the National Association for Secondary School Principals, for which Ms. Martin is probably a member, I reckon. She wasn't there 98 years ago, but some people were, and they decided this would be a good idea, and so the first chapter was in Philadelphia. I also learned when I was doing that research that the motto, the nationwide organization has a motto that I should start using more. It's a French phrase. It's noblesse oblige, noblesse oblige, which is French for nobility obligates. Nobility obligates, and the meaning there is that, a loose translation anyway, is that one must act in a fashion that conforms to one's position and with the reputation that one has earned. So we're going to start saying noblesse oblige more often than we used to. So our organization this year has only had 3 members that you see standing closest to me here. Joseph Rossman is our vice president, and he is a continuing member because he's not a graduating senior. Morgan Cloak is our secretary and our treasurer, but she of course will be graduating, so she'll be replaced when we elect new officers at our first meeting. And over here is Skyler Smith, who has been our president, who will also graduate. So she will need a replacement as well for next year. They've been a great but small group, and I'm excited to greatly increase the size of the group. You can see the 7 new inductees sitting before you here. I'll call their names out later. I could do that now, actually. I could do that now. For once, I think in the first time since I've been doing this for 20 or more years, every inductee happens to be a sophomore. They are all from the sophomore class, which says great things about that class.
It's way too quiet for this.
So how you get in? The selection process is we've had it published on a bulletin board that's now covered up. It's up on it's on the website somewhere. You can look into it, but I'd like to go over that briefly. The first pillar of membership is called scholarship, and for lack of a better tool to decide that, the requirement from the national level is that students have a 3.4 or higher cumulative grade point average after at least 3 semesters of time here at Haines High School. So that means that after your first semester of your sophomore year, you become eligible, if you've been here that whole time, to apply. You get an application packet. In that application packet, you must provide evidence of 2 of the other pillars of the society. You're going to hear some speeches here in a minute that talk about the 4 pillars of the society. Service and leadership are 2 of the others. And so in those application packets, students must write essays that provide some evidence that they have shown the traits of service, being good volunteers and community members, and leadership, how they've been leaders among their peers. Then, at that point, a faculty committee is convened to make a decision, perhaps the hardest one, about the 4th pillar of the society, which is much harder to define. And you'll hear a speech, like I said, about that from Mr. Rossman. And that's character. Character is a hard thing to find a number to represent or any other objective measure. So there's a committee of people that meet that have known the students for long enough to hopefully know them for who they are and judge whether their character is worthy of such an honor as this. That means that this is a hard organization to get into. The 7 you see up here are a fraction of those that were eligible and a fraction of those that applied. Many members of the past have had to apply for more than 1 year before they made selection, and we're told that certain things we're watching for development in certain areas before they met the standard. So it's not an easy thing to just, you don't just show up like it's a club, like boxing club or something. It's not easy to get into. So this year maybe I'll talk about what we have done. One of the other requirements once you are in the National Honor Society is that you participate in individual service, and you must log 25 hours of individual service time, having volunteered in number of ways at your church, in the school, around town, shoveling sidewalks at the senior center. There's all sorts of ways that those service hours can be accrued. But then also, we have to have at least one group, whole group service project each year. This year we've had several. We've been present and helpful at all of the after school nights when dinner is served and we have a parent night. We're not calling it a parent night. What have we called it?
Family night.
We've had family night with different themes. There have been mathematical themes and English themes, and you'll always see Honor Society members there helping to serve and helping to organize and working in that respect as a group. We also, Skyler Smith had the idea that we could run a clothing exchange, and lots of people have clothes in their closet that they don't wear anymore, but they're perfectly good clothes. And so we called for those to be brought into school, and we opened the school on a Saturday for people to come in and browse and not pay for clothes, but just to go through and see, hey, I might want that sweater. We all left with some clothes that we didn't have before, and some other people, Mr. Davis, I think, scored. He was the highest scoring school employee. He ended up finding some stuff that could be used for uniforms for his choir and band, and some, I think some clothes. Those are just
some white shirts.
Some white shirts. That's what I was talking about. And then he's got some. The one he's wearing right now, I don't know for sure, but anyway, a small but appreciative part of the population of the town came by and walked off with some different new threads. So that was a success. And then more recently, of course, you're aware of our Pennies for Patients drive, which was a fundraiser for children with leukemia. And it's a coin war. I'm saying this for the benefit of the audience that isn't a student. It's a coin war where each class could put in coins into a container, and copper coins, pennies, counted as points for your team. And then if you wanted to bomb another class, you could drop a dime or a quarter or even bigger denominations into theirs, and that would count against them. So we ended up raising a good chunk of money. I'm not going to disclose the amount because we actually have a little contest we'd like to run. If you want to guess what the total take was, what our total fundraising total was for Pennies for Patients, you can write your name on a little slip of paper with a figure. That's both, not just the pennies, but the entire fundraising total. And if the kid that's closest, the student that's closest to the true total will have a little prize of some kind that I haven't figured out yet, but it's going to be awesome. So Pennies for Patients was a big success. We fell a little short of our lofty goal of $900, so I'll let you know you should guess lower than $900. But we raised a significant chunk of change for kids with childhood leukemia, and we're all pretty proud of that. We just finished counting up and rolling all the money in the last couple of days, and that'll go to the bank, and a big check will go to the Pennies for Patients organization. So that's what we did this year as a group, and had a lot of fun working with these people. We're also pretty excited, though, to have some new blood and be a bigger organization. So I'd like to introduce sophomore Lydia Andreessen to be inducted this year. You all know her. You could just say hi. Lydia. And Carson Krager. Again, they're all sophomores. Yeah, you can. Mark Davis. I could say Hannah and Haley Boron, but I'm going to say Hannah Boron. And Haley, because you can't induct them as twins. They were inducted separately. So Hannah and Haley Boron. Yzella. Williamson. These are our new inductees, and I'm real proud to have them on board. So like I said, to explain a little bit more about the 4 pillars of the National Honor Society, since there's only 3 of us, I have to give one of these speeches. I chose scholarship since I'm the teacher, so I'm going to talk a little bit about what scholarship means to me and what I think it should mean for the National Honor Society. Scholarship to me is more than what could be expressed in one's cumulative GPA. To me, I like to start with a Ralph Waldo Emerson quote that kind of gets it for me. Scholarship is to be created not by compulsion, but by awakening a pure interest in knowledge. So to me, a real scholar is not someone just that makes good grades, but someone that has a real abiding curiosity and a desire to learn, to have knowledge for the sake of bettering themselves. And that, unfortunately, doesn't show necessarily in a GPA. But I hope it shows in all of these students, regardless of whether their GPA 4.0 or a 3.7. To me, that's what we're in the business of doing here as teachers, is instilling a love for knowledge and for growth through learning about our world. I think the scholarship that I'm trying to develop as a teacher, those of you, all of you have had me as a teacher, and you know that I have very high standards. I write difficult tests, just ask the kids that just took one. I grade those tests very strictly. I'm known for one that's kind of tough in that way. My goal in being that tough is to develop the kind of scholarship where curiosity and motivation provide you the drive to struggle hard, struggle to learn difficult things, and to understand difficult concepts, and to ask questions, hard questions about your place in the universe and the truths of nature. That's my goal as a teacher, and I try to set a high standard for myself in that respect too. So scholarship means, in short, much more than your grade point average to me. It has to do with a love of learning and a desire to grow. And so that brings me to, scholarship. I'm doing it wrong.
Service. There's a variety of things service stands for. A few come off a few that come off the top of my head would be servicing your vehicle, customer service, and serving our country. To the military people in the back, I want to say a big thank you for serving our country. It means a lot. Service means different things to everybody. Nobody has the same exact definition. But that is because we are all different. And that's what makes us individuals. The person who's willing to give their help to anybody who might need it to make their life a little bit easier is doing a service. The person holding a door open for somebody at the post office, at the store, is doing a service. The person who donates money to a cause is doing a service. Service to me is the kindness one person gives to another. It is a guiding factor in building a person's character and leadership skills. And it makes a difference between a good and a bad leader. A person who is devoted to serving others is a person who grew up devoted to serving others is less selfish, whereas the one who grew up focusing on only serving themselves is more so. Service is a consideration and drive that we all have in us to make the world a kinder place. Service.
The wax is hot.
Molten by definition.
Yeah, molten. Leadership. There are many ways to describe a leader. The dictionary defines leadership as the act of leading a group of people. While this isn't wrong, there is so much more that goes into being a leader. There are 4 main building blocks to being a leader. These include passion, devotion, compassion, and communication. To be a leader of a group of people, you must be passionate about what you're leading. A leader doesn't just tell people what to do or how to do it. They lead their peers in doing such an act. A leader needs to be passionate about what they're caring about, because if they're not, then why would their peers? Leadership means being devoted to a cause, being devoted to people. If you are not devoted as a leader, then neither will your people. People are very complex, and as a leader, you are constantly working with people. A good leader must be able to put themselves in their peers' shoes, to show understanding and compassion. People come from different backgrounds. You never know what someone is going through, and it is your job to help them through that. As a leader, it is your job to bring out their best person. Communication is such an important skill in life, especially as a leader. As a leader, you need to be able to express your thoughts and opinions, yes, but communication is also about listening and respecting those around you. It is your job to listen to their ideas and to their plans and help them express it. For a leader that does not have good communication isn't much of a leader at all. Ever since I was young, I was told you can be 2 things, either a leader or a follower. I find some flaw in that statement, because you can be both, and you should be both. As a leader, you need to listen to your people, and so you need to follow your people and what they want. That's what a leader does. So don't just be a follower, or don't just be a leader, sorry. Be a follower too. The National Honor Society recognizes leadership as one of the 4 pillars. The NHS looks for exemplary students, and you most definitely have to be an exemplary person to be a leader. Leadership.
That's the dangerous part.
Character. Character can mean a variety of different things depending on who you ask, but to the National Honor Society, it means that these students speak, act, and exhibit the same qualities alone as they would with everyone watching. Not only that, but they can be seen smiling throughout the hall, working hard after school, and encouraging each other to push themselves towards greatness. Oftentimes, a person's mindset will determine someone's character. In the NHS, we recognize and welcome those who love to learn and are eager to improve themselves. These qualities can be harnessed to take on challenges and persevere through the ups and downs of one's high school career. Character, like a sculpture, can be crafted by the tools given to all, but those who approach the task with care and introspection yield the tools most expertly. Character.
A couple things before we formally induct our new members. I'd like to bestow a little bit of regalia upon our graduating senior members. First, Skyler. She gets to wear this with her graduation gown. And Morgan. And they also have some little emblems, some pins that come with, or they denote the office that they served. So first, this one, if you could see it, it's a little gold quill like people might used to write with. So it goes to our secretary, and that should be worn at all times. Right now. And because we were such a small group, Morgan, again, as I said, served as both secretary and treasurer, so she also gets the little gold key to our vast vault of resources. Again, at all times, one on each lapel.
Sounds good.
And the little torch is for you, the vice president. You carry the torch, I suppose, if Skyler were to get sick or something. I'm not sure if that's the symbolism. But it's a torch. It's pretty cool. And then the gavel, because of the way Skyler runs the meetings with an iron fist. She doesn't even use a gavel, she just pounds the table. It's a little gavel for the president. So again, thank you for serving as officers this year. And I'll ask you, Joseph, when the time comes to pass these out. But first, Skyler will lead the new inductees in the Pledge of Honor Society membership. So get your auditory memory brain ready. You pass these out when they get. No, they're not in any order.
Can I get all the inductees to raise their right hand, please? Okay. Follow after me. I pledge myself to uphold.
I pledge myself to uphold
The high purposes of the National Honor Society.
the high purposes of the National Honor Society,
To which I have been elected.
to which I have been elected.
I will be true to the principles for which it stands.
I will be true to the principles for which it stands.
I will be loyal to my school.
I will be loyal to my school
And will maintain and encourage
and will maintain and encourage
high standards of
high standards of
scholarship,
scholarship,
service,
service,
leadership,
leadership,
and character.
and character.
Congratulations, you're in.